I do still recommend to women that they initiate mate selection when it comes to men because it allows them to get that power back. I think a lot of women are operating out of fear as well. They would rather not try and get the guy of their dreams than put in the effort and be shot down. But I think that we are somehow being sent this message that men are less than, and that is setting us behind when it comes to dating and mating.
What's up guys, welcome back to another video. I have such an exciting collab for you guys today. I've brought on someone really great that's gonna help you give some of that female wisdom as to getting what you want. But before we get into that, I just wanted to give a quick PSA, a quick public service announcement. Your boy has been nominated for Best Actor over in the land of Dundee in Australia. And it would be great if you guys could help vote for me for Best Actor in a film that I starred in that's coming out this year. So if you guys want to click on the link in my bio, go to the Best Actor link, scroll down to the bottom, click my name and press vote. That would massively be appreciated and help get your boy an award. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I've got an amazing guest for you today. I've got Ali from the RealFemSapien YouTube channel. Ali, welcome to the show, welcome to the channel.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. I was thrilled to come across your content creation because you seem pretty sincere. You actually want to help women.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, but I think, you know, human beings, we thrive on human connections, and it's a lot harder to find that nowadays. So I want to try and bridge that gap. And, you know, I've watched a bunch of your videos in the past couple of weeks, and you've got a lot of great wisdom, I think, especially from the female perspective. So, and I know audiences are going to love you. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So first, tell us about yourself. How did you start this, and kind of what is, you know, if you're going to say what was your mission today as part of your content, what would you say that is?
My main focus is I have a hidden demographic of people that I am trying to help. So in order to create well-rounded children, you have to intervene in women's lives and create well-rounded women. That's the framework that I'm working off of. Some of the problems that I see coming up for women is going to be maternal narcissism. We know that narcissism is prevalent in our society with the rise of social media, but nobody ever thinks that maybe mama could be narcissistic and the impacts that that could have on the women who then go out in the dating market. I obviously find social media to be problematic, although we're here. I'm trying to use it for good.
That's right.
And some other things is I would say that fourth wave feminism is a little bit misguided. I am all for a woman's right to work and a woman's right to vote. But I think that we are somehow being sent this message that men are less than, and that is setting us behind when it comes to dating and mating.
Yeah, no, I completely concur with a lot of things you just said. And I think that's maybe a really good start to place. It's a good place to start, rather, on the kind of fourth wave feminism and how do you think that's affected how we date culturally compared to maybe how it was 100 years ago?
Well, if you want to go back 100 years, women pursued men because they were important to us. We needed them. So we would initiate the interactions, which I do still recommend to women that they initiate mate selection when it comes to men because it allows them to get that power back. Women, we need to feel like we have some kind of control. You can take it way too far. I think that's true, and we can see that in many relationships when women try to be overly controlling. But for some women, it's a little bit nerve-wracking to get dressed up and put on your best. Yeah. And then you hope that a man chooses you. And they don't even realize sometimes that they can just simply just go up to a man and say hello. But we're being told that men are inherently bad, they're inherently oppressive. We still want to date them, we still want to marry them, but when you have that underlying structure that you look at men through, it gets in the way. And you'll see, I think it's more of a problem for college-educated women.
Yeah, I think you're so true. There is a contradiction in terms of, you know, for a lot of people, especially a lot of women, if they want to have a family, a marriage, and have that life, you do need a man to do that. You do need a partner to do that. But then there's almost an underlying distrust, because if you're being told that men are inherently toxic and they've got your worst interests at heart and, like you said, oppressive, it's kind of, okay, well, I feel like I need this kind of individual, but then I don't know how to trust them, and that creates this kind of toxic power struggle environment, I think, with relationships and family. what do you, because I mean, you're, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but you're engaged. Congratulations.
Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Yes.
And so many, you know, I'm sure so many women, you know, are looking for that kind of engagement, looking for that guy to give them a commitment and start building with them. What do you think maybe you've done differently that maybe some women are, you know, maybe failing to see?
Well, one would be the list, that magical list that women have of 20 to 30 items.
Oh, that list.
That list won't, well, it won't get you anywhere. I oftentimes recommend to women to date off of 3 values. Values are going to make a marriage work over preferences. I know that some people don't believe in marriage, but I would say most women want marriage. They just might say that they don't want it because that's a way to cope with the reality that they don't have the skills to do something like that, which is okay. I just try to promote honesty in women so that they can work on the problem instead of pretending that the problem isn't there. So you date off of 3 values. Preferences looks like height or income. How can I put this? The list that I get for women makes sense.
Yeah.
It actually makes sense. It would be the ideal husband, but he's got to be funny. He has to be ambitious. He has to be fit. He has to be 6 feet tall. He has to be emotionally intelligent. He has to be a 6-figure earner. He has to be young.
It goes on. It just goes on.
I mean, you can... Well, on the surface, that sounds like, yes, absolutely. I would want my husband and the father of my children to be like that. But some things are you're going to have to give. Right? So if you're wanting a 6-figure earner man, some of these guys, they're working 40 to 60 hours a week. That kind of work schedule does not always allow a man time in the gym. So let's say he said, okay, I'm going to go to the gym anyway, even though I'm working 40, 60 hours a week. So then he's not going to be home that much, and then you're going to have that problem where you want to be emotionally validated, but he's gone a lot. But you chose to be with somebody that makes that much money. There's consequences for decisions for women, and we're getting the messaging from not just social media, but it's also mainstream media and also marketing that we can have whatever we want, however we want, whenever we want it, and we deserve it. When in reality, what we need to promote to women is to try to make as wise of decisions as you can and understand the consequences that are involved. For example, my relationship. My fiance is 50. He is twice my age. That's a compromise that I made, but that's a choice that I made because for me, I'm looking at quality over quantity. I know the reality that, I'm probably going to be on this earth a little bit longer, but I think that's okay. I'm willing to take the risk for a very wonderful love, right? And I think a lot of women are operating out of fear as well. They would rather not try and get the guy of their dreams than put in the effort and be shot down, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I completely empathize with, what you just said about, the difference between you and your fiance in terms of age. Because, like, I have a 3-year-old younger brother with my dad and his new partner, and she's, like, 15 years younger than him. But, like, he's way more established and he can provide this kind of life that she's been looking for in a man. So I completely get that. And, yeah, you have to, with each choice or each quality, there are pros and cons. I was reading an interesting book a few months ago, and one of the chapters reflects on the weakness of strength and how a strength in one area under different circumstances can be a weakness, So let's take being ambitious and someone who's really hardworking and grafting, like you said. That can be so attractive that you're grafting, building yourself, building your company, whatever it is, and you're working 60, 70 hours a week and you can afford to have this lifestyle. But it might mean you have to sacrifice quality time for that, and that can be the weakness of it. So it's like, how can we as a society understand that, and I say this all the time to my clients, that you can't have it all. There's no such thing. Like, no one can have it all, and you have to choose. I want to go on. You're saying about the list, right? Because a lot of women have a list, and while sometimes having this list can be really unrealistic, there are a very, very small percentage of men who maybe tick all these boxes, right? And they tend to, of course, be less commitment oriented. They like to enjoy sexual variety. How do you think what do women need to understand about maybe this very small percentage of men who may tick all those boxes if they're trying to get a commitment or relationship?
So a young man who makes six figures and is 6 feet tall and is established.
Yeah.
And doesn't have children and is not married.
Yeah.
Those kinds of men, they have
and straight
options in women. Right. They have a lot of options with women, and it kind of breaks our hearts because it's the guy of our dreams and we really want something like that. But you kind of have to make a decision, and I'm just going to keep it a stack because marriage is not for everyone. I get that. I am very much pro-marriage. In fact, I'm pro-sexy marriage. I want people to get married and have a lot of sex. But when you're dealing with these very high-caliber men, and every day of the week they're getting women flinging themselves at them, you're asking them to control themselves in the prime of their life, which is very unlikely. You can wait until... Some men, they'll get in their 40s when they're high caliber, and then they're thinking about a family. They want to have a legacy. But as women, you have to think, do you want to be a wife or do you want to be a side chick? Because to be honest, I know women who are very well cared for, but they're one of 3.
Yeah.
Right? So they made that compromise and they said, well, this is the guy that I want to be with. Because they could date down, but women, we don't often want to date down because we're not attracted to that kind of guy.
Massively.
I encourage women to pursue the wholesome alpha, the wholesome Chad, because they exist. I'm in the Midwest. They're around here.
Yeah.
They do get snatched up pretty quick. And so if you're wanting to be a wife, then you might want to modify what you're looking for because you want longevity and you want loyalty. So maybe he doesn't have to be 6 feet tall. Maybe he's 5'8". Maybe he's 5'6". Maybe he's not making $150,000 a year. Maybe he's making $80,000, but he invests, and then eventually you will have that 6-figure income. You build something together. You just have to be able to put in the work.
Yeah.
But women are also very blind to the effort that a relationship takes. So these women, where we're talking about the 1 in 3, where she is in a polygamous situation, those women are on their toes all day, every day, because they have that underlying anxiety. Well, what if he's going to find something better? So they are in the gym. They've got abs. They're calorie restricting. But they're adults. These are choices that they're making. That's not a choice that I want to make. So I tend to kind of stick with a more realistic man. But those are my thoughts on pursuing an above average man and then I guess high value. That is in itself a little bit subjective. But also women have to understand that marriage is work, and oftentimes the quality of the marriage is in the woman's hands. But we're being fed that we're empowered, but then we're also oppressed. And so there's this cognitive dissonance. You don't know when to assume responsibility for the state of your marriage.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so interesting, especially when if you want to start settling down and having a family and stuff. That's when the security that a man can provide in terms of feeling secure within the relationship, I think, becomes very important for a lot of women. Speaking of polyamory, I think that's a really good segue. Some of my male clients, because sometimes I coach guys as well, and while I think this can be depending what stage that a woman is at and what her priorities are, one thing that I've heard, which I've used before, is that, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree with this, that a lot of the time a woman would rather share a limo with other women to get to the party than have like an old up banger all to herself getting there. And the kind of metaphor, the metaphor is, I think depending where she's at and if she's just kind of looking to have fun, she would rather share the really desirable guy, like you said, if he has a few other women, than have the guy who's quite undesirable all to herself. Do you think that's true, or what do you think on that?
Unfortunately, yes, I 100% think it's true. I wish it wasn't. But what women say versus what they do is totally different. Because women think, okay, well, polygamy would be one man married to multiple women. No, sweetie. No, it is also just your alpha Chad who has 3 to 4 girlfriends and then some. Okay, because there's not a marriage in place, but that's still a mating pattern that goes on when men have a lot of resources. The problem is that there aren't a whole lot of masculine men left out there. There's a reason why my fiance is Gen X.
Yep.
I don't know. I think they might be the last manly men in the United States.
100%.
So we've created this feminization of men from fourth wave feminism because we convinced them that if you want to be in a relationship with a woman, we want you to be more emotional, sensitive, there for us, just be a regular guy who appeals to all of my feminine needs, which is, when you're thinking about your feminine needs, it's just him saying yes to a bunch of stuff. That's what most women are trying to get to. But they don't realize that when men say no, they actually find that a little bit sexy.
That's right.
Oh, I can't go out and do that? Interesting. So when we don't have masculine men around, that pool is small, and women are always going to be attracted to masculine men. Women that are cisgender, heteronormative, or heterosexual, they're going to want masculine men. It's in our biology. That's why you also see sometimes women, when they choose a less than honorable alpha, there's this idea that they're supposed to be to be alpha means to be a good man, which is not true, right? I say that there's prison alphas and there's portfolio alphas. Okay. So, yeah. So these dangerous men that do end up in the system and things like that, you wonder why do women want him? And it's because they have power and they have protection and possibly even provisioning. What the methods behind how the man gets the money sometimes doesn't matter for some women, okay? But like our biology is still going to make us attracted to masculine men. However, we have society that says if you choose that kind of mate, there will be consequences. Maybe 200 years ago wasn't going to be as many consequences, even though we still did have, you know, laws in place that said you couldn't commit certain crimes.
Yeah.
But for a woman to be protected in that way, that's primal. Now we have a society where we need to be very selective on the quality of the alpha male that we're running into. So that's why you need to have your mitigating risk factors and be on your P's and Q's as a woman when you're looking at mate selection. But you're going to have to compete for the man of your dreams because everybody else wants him. And women, I think, are scared of competition. But if you look at your average woman in the West, I mean, no offense, it's not much to compete with. It's very easy these days to be a little bit above average. And also, you know, some of these guys, their standards for women are not out of this world. They are not necessarily asking that you have abs, right? If you're running into a millionaire, billionaire, yeah, he probably wants it. But if you just want a stable guy who can provide enough for you and your family, he doesn't necessarily want that you have abs. He probably just wants you to be a natural fertile size.
Yes.
Right? So women, we get caught up in our own, like, I have to be the ideal partner. Well, no, you don't.
No, I do think, I don't know, and it's refreshing to hear you say that because I do think as a guy as well, maybe, and I obviously see things through a male lens, but I think guys have much easier standards for women to qualify than women have for men. But I understand that because usually when it comes to who makes it to the next generation, the power has mainly been in the woman's hands, so it makes sense that she's gonna have the power in that. I love the idea of, you know, what you're saying about the dark alpha and the portfolio alpha. I think that's so
prison
cool.
alpha and portfolio alpha.
So for us, what's the definition of a portfolio alpha? What does that look like?
So that would be, well, we're going to forego age. Okay, let's break it down. We'll do young portfolio alpha, older portfolio alpha. So young portfolio alpha, he is coming into his stride. He's going to be in his 20s, maybe even in his 30s. He might still be getting his education, but he majored in something in STEM. And yeah, maybe he's had girlfriends here or there, but at the end of the day, he knows that he wants to have a legacy. So that's why he's building his platform so that he can allow a family to enter his frame, so he can have a wife and have children. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the woman cannot work, right? Different men want different professions for women. But when you're looking at more of the older portfolio alpha, he spent his 20s and 30s grinding so that he could run into a wife and choose her off rip immediately. I want you. This is what I have to offer. You're going to take it or leave it, right? And these men, they're also very stable, but for women, sometimes they don't understand that if you're going to be with a masculine man, and I don't like to use these terms and these definitions, but it's just the easiest thing for people to process. So when you're in a relationship with a masculine man, you might see that his character and his personality is a little bit strong. But that's part of the reason why he became so successful in the first place.
100%.
So that can put some women off where they're thinking, well, he's making all of these demands. When in reality, he's setting boundaries and they're not used to that.
Yep.
And sometimes a woman will just eject out of it. So that's what comes to mind for me when I'm talking about portfolio alphas, is the well-rounded man who maybe he played around a little bit when he was young, but he knew at the end of the day he was going to have a family and wanted to lead his household and definitely wanted a wife by his side.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. I'm definitely keep that in mind. And it's so funny when you were describing the characteristics of what a portfolio alpha is, which is a new term I've never heard of before. Really interesting. And it's so funny because there's like a group of friends, male friends, me and mine, and one guy I'm seeing later on. I'm like, wow, that so describes the circle that I'm in. It's so weird how you just said that, and you're so right in terms of they're very focused on building their frame. So when they get to a certain point, they can be, hey, this is what I can provide, and they want to choose the best, best partner possible, and. Yeah, I like to differentiate as well in terms of, the prison alpha. And it's funny because when a lot of the time a girl will say she wants a nice guy, and I think I conflate that with more, she wants a good guy, not a nice guy. Because the nice guy is someone who's not capable of doing anything. But the good guy is the one who's really capable of being dangerous, but he chooses that energy to focus in a, more justifiable direction. Have you must have heard of Jordan Peterson. You must have, surely.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah.
I love him, yes. I've gotten through some very tough situations in my life just listening to some of his lectures. Have not read any of his books yet. I do own them. Haven't cracked them open. But I have listened to, yes. But I've listened to, I want to say, maybe 40 hours of lectures just running long distance and listening to what he has to say.
Yeah.
And he's broken down a lot of things for me, particularly mate selection and women.
Yeah.
Because it at first, it sounds crazy. Well, why would a woman want to be with a dangerous man? And it's like a man who can physically end another man's life to save you as a woman. That's important if you're actually at risk for something.
Massive.
But it's when it gets channeled into those really negative methods of dominance and provisioning that our bodies still like that, but we probably shouldn't choose that in modernity.
Yeah, massively. And I think even one of his lectures, he was like the most attractive male archetype is the vampire, the werewolf, and the billionaire, because they're all capable of like mass destruction to like unreasonable degrees. And it's so true. Twilight is literally that. That's why that franchise was so big, because it's every, I don't know, maybe evolutionary woman's fantasy to some extent. One thing that Jordan Peterson said, I saw an interview, and he was describing about these athletes, and about, he was talking to someone who's an athlete, and he was at this party, and literally this woman just came and brought 10 beautiful women and said, just choose one for the night. Like ridiculous kind of things out of people's worlds. And he says, as a man, if you're a man who becomes very desirable to many women, if you have options, he's like, that's really something, right? It's really not nothing. But then he said you should only choose one. And for the past 12 months, I really try to understand why, I mean, it's because I'm a guy, but why as a man would you work your ass off in all these areas to be desirable to many women to then only choose one? And it's because it's better for society. It's better for society if you have, people partnering up rather than a small percentage of men having many women, and you have other guys kind of becoming frustrated, etc. And then I kind of thought that monogamy, or a byproduct of monogamy, is almost sexual redistribution. Does that make sense? In a way of like,
you would have to explain it to me, because I know sexual, I know redistribution, I don't know together, so do tell.
Yeah. So tell me what you think, and I haven't fully concluded in what I think of it, but it's kind of okay. If you take 10 random guys and 10 random girls and you put them on a deserted island, right? We know chances are 7 or 8 of the women will want the same 2 or 3 guys, right? And if we live in a quote unquote like a polyamorous free sexual society, it's not uncommon that those 3 of those guys will have 3 women each, right? So none of the women are taken, and then you have 7 guys pining after that one woman who's, you know, not taken by one of the other 3 desirable guys. Whereas if you kind of, I don't say enforce monogamy, but if you did enforce monogamy, the 3 guys who would have had 3 women, if they're forced to choose one, that means the 7 women who haven't been chosen now choose from the rest of the pool of guys because the other guys are taken. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
So it's kind of like, it's literally, it's like taxing the rich to give to the poor. You know, like the rich get exponentially richer all the time, right? So we redistribute that by taxing them or giving to the poor. And it's kind of like the kind of men who have the majority of sexual access, if you will. If they were only forced to choose one woman, then it means the other guys would, the women who aren't chosen would obviously have to go back to the rest of the pool of men and give the other men a chance. Does that make sense? What do you think about that?
It does make sense. What comes to my mind when I'm hearing that is, in one of my anthropology lectures, my professor talked about how there was a group of primates, and there was a pathogen that came through the group where a lot of the alpha males got sick, right? So what was left over were the beta males, and that's just even primates have social hierarchies. It is what it is. But what they ended up finding was that the beta males that were left behind, because there's no more alphas, they were much more affectionate and they groomed more. They were more social, right? So emotional intelligence ended up falling into play there. But I see that it could be dangerous if we continue to entertain polyamory and polygamy. And to be honest, most of the time, it's the women who lose if they do it with sort of the wrong guy. I don't know anyone who has done this well-balanced polyamorous situation. I just don't.
Yeah.
I see people try it. It fizzles out. They fail. Hearts are broken. And then the woman's emotionally scarred. And she's going to bring that baggage to the next relationship. That's and, you know, you show up to the new guy. Maybe this is an actually good guy. But then you want to tell him, yeah, so I was polyamorous for about 5 years. If I was a man looking for a wife, I would... Red flag. Red flag. Well, because it's too much work to undo the bad habits that you learn. And what I mean is that these women end up traumatized not knowing it. They want the next man to fix it. But I don't know if women are watching, but if you listen really close, it's the sound of another woman turning 18 who already knows the game. So that's what you're dealing with here. That's why I tell women, I don't think dating works at all. I believe marriage can work. I know the statistics are grim, but again, this is mostly going to be in the hands of women because we're filing most of the divorces, and sometimes it's very flippant. So I encourage women to just make a choice. Do you want to be a wife? Do you want to be a wife? And if you're going to think about that, start thinking about it in your 20s, because by the time you get to your 30s, look at your girlfriends who have gone through serial monogamy and didn't take it well, because that could be what you end up being in the dating market if you choose to wait too long. Because I know women that are in their late 30s and they still think hot girl summer is going on, and hot girl summer like ended over at 26. So when you have that leverage in your 20s as a woman, you get more options and men to settle down with. Some things are going to suck, right? If you want to date a man who is your age as a woman in your 20s and you want to build with him, yes, you might be broke for maybe about a decade. That's just the truth of it. But if you stick around and he's ambitious and he has proven action steps, then you'll see in your 30s or 40s you're going to be taken care of. But some women, they don't like that, but then they don't want to go older. That's why I went older, is because I don't want to be part of a man's building phase. I've done it before as a millennial woman. I've done it. And I didn't get the return on an investment that I was looking for, because I really want to have children. So I just thought, well, let me find a guy who's already done it and then go from there. And it's actually quite nice. It's a lot less pressure on my part to, yes, sweetie, you can do it. I believe in you. You know, because he's already got his career established. So those are my thoughts on polyamory and mate selection and why women should try it in their 20s.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, not try polyamory. I'm saying you should try figuring out if you want to get married in your 20s, is my point.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it is a reality, you know, especially if you're a woman who does want to have children, that there is more the window to which you can decide that is smaller than what it is for men, because men can just prolong it. But on that, in terms of, you know, you said you started with someone and then you've kind of, you know, you found someone who you really want to have that with because they're kind of already established. So you're no stranger to getting commitment from men, which is something that a lot of women struggle with, I think, nowadays. So if there was a girl, let's say she's 27, you know, she's starting to think about choosing the guy she wants to spend her rest of her life with, and she kind of wants to start making those steps. If you were going to give her maybe 3 tips onto how to date to find a guy that you can actually have that with to get that commitment, what would you say to that?
The first thing I'm going to say is to be an asset in a man's life. Women are concerned about putting in the effort to be feminine, which, again, that needs its own breakdown because they're getting it wrong. They get worried that if they do that they're not going to get a return on investment from a man, which would be commitment. But honestly, I don't see sincere femininity fail often. I do see fake femininity fail often because the guy finally gets into an argument and he found out who you really were. And then he thought, well, this is probably not who I would like to reproduce with. So be an asset to a man's life. Don't feel so... Because your girlfriends are going to lie to you. Your girlfriends are going to lie to you when you tell them that you do things for your man. They're going to think, well, why can't he make his own meal?
Yeah.
Well, why do you need to be there for him? Why can't you come out tonight on girls' night? Why do you need to be home and watching Netflix? Are you being controlled? Are you being oppressed? It doesn't matter because they don't have a man and you do.
Yeah.
And your relationship is just going to have to be very much safeguarded. That's the other thing that I would say for women as well, is to safeguard your relationship. That's so number 2, safeguard.
Yes.
There's people that you can allow into your relationship and people that you need to keep on the outside because they're going to try to infiltrate. They're going to see a crack in the armor and insert themselves, these miserable women, to try to keep you around because they're lonely and they want to have other girlfriends around them to spend time with. But you should be very concerned when you're seeing women in their late 30s just getting drunk every day of the week. Because if a man were to do it, that would be weird, right? We would call him an alcoholic. It is the same thing if a woman is doing it. Be an asset, safeguard, and be the best version of yourself would be the last thing right there. And that can be things like fitness, nutrition, intellect, but becoming a more well-rounded woman every day. And all you need to do in order to accomplish that is do something 1% better than you did the day before. Women oftentimes will see that they have to be this overly successful woman, when in reality, the statistics don't support that. I know how your girlfriends look on Instagram, but really, you're not out here getting that bag. It's all a facade. So when you're doing something 1% better every day, let's say you want to go on an entrepreneurship journey. So you just make your product 1% better every day. Eventually, you get to 100 days go by, you're 100% better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
to just do that in different areas of your life, it could be femininity, it could be so many things. As long as it ends up falling under the umbrella of being an asset to your man, it should be fine.
Yeah, yeah. So much value in that. Ali, you're awesome, man. That awesome. We could honestly be chatting all the time. I think you've got such great wisdom and experience that you're sharing with the world. Where can we find you? Where can we find you?
So you can find me on YouTube at RealFemSapien. You can find me on Instagram at RealFemSapien. I have a blog at RealFemSapien.com.
Awesome.
And understand that when I do videos, when I have these conversations, I cannot iron out every single detail for every nuanced part of a relationship. I can speak in generalities, but if you need more of a one-on-one mentorship style, I do one-on-ones. Right. If that's something that you're interested in as a woman, because that's the only way that I can get in touch with your actual situation, the pros and the cons of your personality type and your desires, and give you more individualized advice. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ali. It has been a pleasure getting you on. Nice and swift, such succinct information. And yeah, I even learned a couple of new things from you. I'm sure a lot of audiences are gonna love you. So thank you for coming on, and guys, thanks for tuning in. I will see you in the next video. Peace out. Pow.